right, tonight's webinar is all about how to host a successful meeting. I am Liz Reese. I am the director of the Academic Travel Advisor Network for ACIS, and that is a network of current group leaders as well as retired ACIS group leaders and teachers across the country who work with new teachers and mentor them through the group leader process. And I work with that team and I help them, I support them as they mentor new teachers through how to get started planning educational tours with ACIS. It's a lot of fun, and we have a wonderful network of people across the country who work as our local representatives. One of those people is with me tonight. Nikki Miller is our academic travel advisor in Cleveland, Ohio. Nikki, do you want to just say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I teach French in Westlake, Ohio, and I have been traveling with ACIS since 1991, taking trips to France and all over Europe.
Yeah, you've done trips just about every other year, right?
Yes.
With your school. That's really exciting. We also have Regional Director of the North for ACIS, Tom Hyam, on the webinar. He's actually not going to be talking at all. He is going to help answer your questions. So we're going to run a little bit through how this is going to work tonight. We have a question area. We also have a chat option. You can just use that to ask questions throughout the presentation, and we will collect them and answer them at the end, or Tom will answer them while we're going through the presentation. To get things started tonight, we would like to start off with a poll. We're curious as to why you're here and what you're hoping to get out of this tonight. So I'll keep that up while I sort of start running through the purpose of our webinar tonight. So, we know that as a teacher, you're busy, you have a lot on your plate, and that the prospect of planning a trip can seem daunting. So we want to share the details of our other teachers' successes, of Nikki's successes, of how she has developed a travel program at her school where she knows every other year that she has a group going overseas. So how we're going to start tonight is we're going to talk about all of Nikki's sort of insider tips, and we're also going to focus on all the things that ACIS does to support you as well in your recruiting process, and where to find those tools and how to best utilize them. So we're going to sort of do twofold. We're going to give you the insider perspective and then the ACIS support side of things. To begin the discussion, I'd like us to sort of assume that the teacher has chosen an itinerary, they have a price, they know who their audience is, which students they're taking, and they're at the point where they're ready to sort of reach out to parents, reach out to students, and get the community on board with their trip. So before we do all that, I'm just going to close the poll and see. All right, well, good news. Everybody, I'll share the results. It turns out everybody really wants to learn about all the things we're going to talk about, which works out nicely for us. So we will cover all these things. If there's anything we don't cover that you wanted to hear more about, ask the question. Or, if there's anything you need more details on, let us know. Okay? This really is more of a conversation, and we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're interested in learning about. All right. Nikki.
Yes.
So let's get started. What are some of the first things you do in your classroom and in your school and community to get the students interested and informed about the trip?
Well, one of the things that I do is I have a French club, and you can see my French club here with the homecoming float that they built. And they are my go-to group where I first introduce the trip and try to build the enthusiasm for the trip. And here we are actually on the trip doing a cooking class in Paris, a cultural connection with ACIS. I also will generate excitement in the classroom by using geography lessons to teach about the different areas that we're going to visit on the trip. I'll show DVDs and PowerPoints to give them the feel for the places that we will visit. I also collect the email addresses of the interested students or parents' email addresses so that I can contact them and invite them to the initial meeting. I ask colleagues to speak about traveling in the classroom from time to time, and I have often talked to the PTA so that they could perhaps provide a scholarship to a worthy student.
Yeah, so there really is like a multi-level outreach in those initial stages. I wanted to share with you guys this video that one of our group leaders created. It is how he lets his students know about the trip. And what he actually does is, obviously this would really only work for someone who has already led a trip before, but what he does is he collects quotes from the students and the parents, and then he makes a little video. Now, we don't expect everyone to be able to make a video, but we wanted to share the video with you so you could sort of just get a taste of what he does. Well, that would be enough to get me interested, though. I would pretty much go anywhere.
Right.
If anyone asked me to, I know. So once you have a few interested students, what's the next step? How do you choose the date and location of the meeting?
Well, Liz, it's important to choose a night that's going to be easy for the students and for the parents to attend. You need to take a close look at your master calendar and make sure there's no competing event or something going on that night that would allow people not to attend. I usually hold them around 7 p.m. in the evening. You also want to choose a location that's very easily accessible. It could be your classroom or the school library or auditorium. If it's not a school-approved trip, perhaps you might want to meet at the local library. You want to get there early, make sure the doors are unlocked so that everyone can get in the school, and I usually put up posters to guide the people to the meeting and maybe a sign indicating the way, and make sure that the doors are unlocked. And
just to interject right there, Nikki, I have heard stories of teachers holding meetings and no one can get in the building. I mean, it happens, right? So these little details really are important. So,
oh yes,
yeah, you can go on. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there because I know it's happened.
Right, and make sure if you're using any technology, get there early and get that all set up and make sure that's working, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
I invite colleagues and the principal to attend. And it's important to choose a date that gives you enough time to publicize the meeting. 2 weeks is usually a good time. Too far ahead, people will forget about it, but you want to have plenty of time to advertise the meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry. I don't know. All of a sudden, I just got some background noise there. So speaking of advertising the meeting, what have been your most successful methods to advertise your meeting?
Well, I think it's important, Liz, to advertise as many ways as possible, through as many avenues as possible, and to ask interested students to help. You can create a Facebook page for your trip. You can create a hashtag for your trip. ACIS provides posters, and I put those up around the school. And most important, I send a letter home inviting the students and the parents to the meeting. I include the itinerary to get them excited about the trip and the details of the date and the times and the location of the meeting. And I give some information to let them know how the trip is going to change their lives. Also, very important with this letter, ask for RSVPs, because if you're not getting many RSVPs, you may need to reconsider the date. You need to know that people can come and that it's going to be a worthwhile meeting.
Yeah, I agree. So, you can also use the ACIS website, which we have up here right now, to invite people to your meeting. So this is your actual trip page. You can use it on ACIS.com to invite parents and students. Once you collect those email addresses, which seems to be such a key piece of the pie here, to get those email addresses so you can share this with them, and then they're actually on the trip site and can see everything right there as well. Also, the My Account page has a really great center of support materials. So the planning and recruiting resources, this is where you're going to find all sorts of things. Like Nikki, you just talked about the videos you use. ACIS provides videos on here as well.
Yes, and the one important thing you cannot overlook is word of mouth. Talk to as many students, talk to as many parents as possible before the meeting. Sometimes I'll put things out at open house or at parent conference time and talk to parents, because that really makes the difference. Face-to-face time talking to people about the trip is invaluable.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the teachers I've talked to do a ton of things to get the community on board. They're out at games and, any kind of sporting events, and they really are out within the community trying to get students and parents on board. Parents can be huge advocates for this. If you get one or two parents who are really interested in sending their student, tell them, I need your help to make this trip happen. And hopefully they can get more people on board. We also now have this great program, the Student Ambassador Program, which was born out of the idea that a lot of our teachers were already using, where they would choose one student and say, look, you are the student ambassador for this trip. You make this trip happen. You can help. They can do the Facebook page. They can take a lot off your plate. And now that we have this program, ACIS actually really benefits the students. So having them do this, once they get 15 students on board, they get a $100 scholarship. But as you look at this slide on the right-hand side, you can see this checklist. For every activity that they do on this checklist, they get a raffle ticket thrown in for earning their trip for free. So it is really beneficial to them and worthwhile. This also is available to you in your My Account page. You can learn more about the Student Ambassador Program or ask your program consultant about it. But it's a great tool, and just one more thing to sort of make it easier for you and to empower the student or more than one student to really make the trip happen. It really puts it on their plate. All right, so we've done all the prep work. We have like 150 people coming to the meeting. What do you do to make sure you really knock their socks off during that meeting? And make them sign up,
the most important thing you can do is to create an agenda, and you want to practice. You want to be polished. You want to instill confidence in the parents and make them believe in you so that they'll trust you with their children. In order to do that, you also need to review the ACIS materials, and you can set up a time to review the PowerPoint with your international program consultant at ACIS. They do provide you with a PowerPoint that you can use there, or perhaps you can do your own if you would prefer to do that. But ACIS does provide a very detailed PowerPoint that covers it all. You want to know your goals for the trip, and you want to be prepared to share your travel experiences. Tell them why you are qualified to lead the trip. Be prepared to highlight specific educational benefits. Parents are going to ask a lot of questions. So you need to determine your rules for the trip, your expectations for the students while they're overseas. How is the free time going to be used? Because parents will ask these things. You could line up guest speakers, a student who has traveled before. If you've traveled with students, get one of your former students to give a testimony about the trip. It could even be a principal, though, or a parent whose child traveled on another educational tour. That other voice is going to lend authenticity to the value of the experience and be another credit toward you.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we provide a really comprehensive PowerPoint, and I think that being prepared and really running through it, practicing it, and sort of making it your own, personalize it in some way, whether it's to you or your school or your community. That's going to have a lot of impact, I think. So we also talk about having a registration deadline, and I know this is something that I think is really important.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree that having like a clear, creating that sense of urgency and making a clear deadline is important?
Absolutely. You want to be very definite with your deadline, and I will tell them that I'm signing up people on a first-come, first-served basis. And usually the registration deadline is around a week later. Not too much time should go by between the meeting and the registration deadline. Because if you've done a good job of advertising and putting the information out there, by the time you have the meeting, people are probably pretty close to making up their mind about going on the trip or not.
Yeah, that's true. If you've sent materials home and talked it up in class, and everybody should be sort of, at least they're there to make a decision is probably the reality. All right, so the big night's here, and I've heard a lot of teachers talk about setting the mood, and I know this is where you can sort of have some fun and, again, inject yourself and your personality into the trip and the experience. So tell us some of the fun things you've done to get travel on everybody's mind.
Well, you're right. You definitely do want to set the mood. As people arrive, I try to greet them very personally. As you can see here on the slide, I try to have some French pastries and coffee, tea, or juice to give a sense of being in France in an international flair. I have French music playing. I will be showing a video that's looping either of a former trip or of some students traveling, or the ACIS PowerPoint, or maybe just a slideshow of photos that you have from your own personal travel would be wonderful to use. I put memorabilia around the room. I usually put a bunch of wire Eiffel Towers that I have around the room. I put out photo albums from my long ago trips where we actually made photo albums from it. You could use posters, clothing, anything that gives that authenticity and international flair to it.
Yeah, I agree. It's, I've done a lot of parent-student meetings when I was a salesperson at ACIS, and I always loved all the little things that teachers did and had around the room. So ACIS Now, we actually provide destination slideshows with music, and that's all available for you, again, in your My Account page. We also have more videos on our YouTube page, videos made by students about destinations, videos of teachers talking about the benefits for their students and themselves. So, we have a lot of resources out there for you, and I think that, just making you aware of that, we don't expect everybody to be able to make a destination video of France, but we've done the work for you, and you can have that running as people are coming in with the music in the background. All right, so tell me a little bit more about what you're doing right before that meeting starts. What happens those like half hour, 40 minutes before the meeting?
Well, you want to be at your best, so make sure you're there early. I would say at least 30 minutes minimum, especially if you're using technology. You want to get the PowerPoint up and going, and you want to make sure the room is ready and have the food out and it's unlocked and the music going. This is where a student ambassador or a colleague can come and help you and be your right-hand person. If you have your academic travel advisor or maybe an ACIS representative that's able to join you, make sure that you meet with them probably prior to the meeting and discuss who is going to handle what sections of the presentation so everybody's clear about where they speak. You could also ask your international program consultant to Skype in, possibly. These ACIS representatives are there to help you. They could Skype or they could be on standby phone call to take questions.
Yeah, I can remember doing that.
Yes, I'm sure you did.
When I was
Skype is available.
Yeah, I used to call in by phone and just be available for the question and answer time, but now we can Skype in them, and you can be on video if you want to. And I actually heard a colleague doing that the other day here, Skyping in. So, ask for our help. We are here to support you. And you know what? It's not a big deal for someone here to stay, an extra half hour to help you run your meeting, especially if, you're new to this and you want the support, or even just to let us handle the technical questions. It's a really great thing that technology allows us to do. So Nikki, I know you were also going to talk about how important it is to have a sign-in sheet at the meeting. I mean, it's just as important as those RSVPs. And we actually provide one as well on your My Account page to have that sign-in sheet there. All right, so speaking of the technical details, I just want to talk a little bit about how you cover, the technical elements of the trip. We all sort of know that talking about insurance doesn't inspire anyone to travel anywhere. So how do you keep everybody interested and keep the meeting moving along when you have to cover things like insurance?
Well, it's not the most exciting part of your meeting, but a lot of the parents do really want to hear about this, and they're very interested in this. ACIS does a wonderful job in the registration booklet of delineating everything out with the insurance and explaining the company history and the payment plans and how to register. You want to go over these things with the parents, but don't spend too much time on these technical details because it is in the registration booklet. You certainly aren't going to read that all to them. I simply go through and kind of point out the highlights and tell them that this is all there and they can get as much detail as they want by reading through it.
Yeah, and ACIS, once they're registered, we send them emails, and they have our website, with the dedicated student pages and the parent pages, as well as our client services department. So really, I agree, it's not something you should dwell on. You want to cover it just to let them know that all these options exist, but I don't think you need to dwell on it.
Right.
All right, we've been talking a lot about all the wonderful things you should do at a meeting, but what are some of the things you should avoid doing at a meeting? Because, when you were talking about setting the mood, I was thinking France, wine, there's so many different things, but obviously you don't want to have wine at your meeting, right? I mean, there's got to be a lot of things that no one should do.
Right. The main thing you want to do is not to get into too many what-if scenarios. Parents tend to ask these questions. What if this happens? What if that happens? And you cannot predict the future. We do not have a crystal ball, and I tell this to parents, but I do mostly assure them that ACIS will be there for them to support their child and to support me in taking their child at every turn. For example, you can just go through all these different scenarios, but you can't really decide what's going to happen. So you just reassure them that ACIS will be there for me and for their students. And that's why I've chosen this organization, for their proven track record. The other biggie is don't spend too much time on the price. Sometimes parents have sticker shock in seeing the price. Discuss it, justify it, and then move on. Parents will follow your lead, and if you think it's a good value and act like it's a good value, they will too. If they do their homework, they'll find it is a good value.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
You don't want to do negative stories either, even if they have a happy ending, like a student being lost or something like that. Parents might laugh, but it's really not something they want to hear about at the meeting. And most of all,
they hear is loss.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to dwell on kind of negative scenarios. And never make up an answer. If you do not know something, that is okay. It's just like in teaching. You don't want to lie to them or make up something. You just tell them you don't know, but you will find out. Someone at ACIS will have the answer, and then you can tell the parent that you will email them or call them back and get the correct answer from ACIS.
Yeah, that is another really good point. So, all right, so we've given this great presentation with all the details. How do you end the meeting?
Well, I want them to be inspired to travel, and I want them to feel confident in my abilities to lead the trip, and I want them to feel confident in the choice of my travel organization. So I kind of tell my own story. I tell them a little bit about me and why I'm leading this trip and what my passion is for doing this. I give them some background on myself, maybe even a previous traveler, again, giving a testimonial.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, you want the whole meeting sort of needs to be a balance of inspiration and information. So you want them to feel inspired to travel, but you want to make sure they have all the information they need. So,
Right.
Once you've gone through all the information, what else are the parents really after?
Well, one of the things I really stress is the benefits of early registration, because sometimes they ask me, why are we registering a year and a half before the trip? And I really emphasize how this is going to cut down the cost of the trip. It'll be less money. It will allow to have our own bus on the trip and to have our own private tour. And it's also going to allow more time for them to pay. There's the ACIS payment plan they could use. There's a summer then where they can earn money. The students could earn the money and work to earn maybe spending money, and so that the students are owning the trip and this isn't just mom and dad ponying up for the trip. I want them to, I really stress the educational benefits of the trip, and I want them to take that away with them. This generation is known as the globals, and they will need to be citizens of the world. They're going to be competing globally for college and for jobs in a global market. I explained that by going on a trip like this, it's going to make them more attractive to colleges, and how many students will use this experience for their college essays. And one of the important things to do then at the meeting is to show them how to register online. I often have computers set up there, all logged on to www.acis.com so that they can register right there. That's why a library is a nice place for this. And that way they are convinced and ready to sign up.
Yeah, so the parents, obviously, you want to get them on board, and you talk about how your audience, the students, are this global generation, and I mean we know most of them are there because they want to go, but what do you do to sort of light that fire in them to ensure that they sign up? What are some of the things to really make sure that they don't walk away and really that this becomes something that they have to do?
Right. Well, I think the most important thing, Liz, is to get them to understand the value of this experience and why and how it will change their children's lives, and why now is a great time for them to travel. I know that when I first traveled abroad, it totally changed my life. It was a watershed time in my life. And again, once you talk to them about this, you might get another parent or a student to give a testimonial.
Yeah. So, you and I have talked, I mean, we've worked together for a while, and I know you have a lot of personal stories of students. So tonight I wanted you to share your story about your student who traveled with you and is now over in Africa. Can you share that story with us?
Oh, I would love to. This is my former student, Abby. She is one of the students who went with me on my very first trip to France with students in 1991. She's now working for the Defense Department in Cameroon, Africa, and she's using her French and business degrees there with the Defense Department. I receive a Christmas card from her every year, and this is the card that I received from her last Christmas. And here she is in Cameroon. And she credits that very first trip with ACIS going to France in 1991 with me as determining her life path and leading to where she is now. We got together this past New Year's Day and had a drink and a meal together and talked about that and kind of reminisced. And it totally changed her life, as I know it did mine.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I feel like this would so resonate with the students to be able to, look at this and think, they know that they're there because they want to go on a trip, and they know it could change their life, but they have no idea how, and it's so interesting and inspiring, and it really piques their curiosity about, themselves and what, their future holds. So I think something like this and adding something personal like this that is someone from your community really can have a big impact. So I know, we talked a lot about, you just actually touched on having people register at the meeting. And I have a lot of teachers who do that now. And I feel like if you've done your prep work, you really could, accept registrations at the meeting. One of my teachers holds the meeting in a computer lab and has all the computers turned on and logged into ACIS.com. And at the end of the meeting, everybody goes and they log in and they register right there. It's sort of a genius idea. It takes away that wait time and it takes away that wondering who's going to sign up. All right, Nikki, last question for you. And I feel like all the prep work you've done, obviously is very important and the meeting is very important, but I feel like that day after the meeting is just as important. So what are some of the things you would do that next day after the meeting?
To follow up.
Yes.
Well, I usually talk about the meeting the next day in my classes, and I have extra materials on hand for anyone who was not able to attend. I will send a follow-up email to the parents and students. I will call parents who attended, and any parent of a student that was interested but couldn't attend. And this is where your student ambassador will come in to get more students on board, and you can work with them through social media to advertise to more students. And also students who are already registered often try to encourage their friends to sign up for the trip, and they will grow your trip with talking to friends about what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that, the whole community, getting the community on board is a great idea. And just really not dropping the ball after that meeting and saying, okay, let's wait and see. I think that's a really key part of the plan. All right, so that sort of wrapped up everything we were going to discuss, and I wanted to open it up to some questions now. And I know we've had a couple questions come through. So let's take this first question. What if there is a snowstorm, which, I mean, how many snowstorms have we had this week? Well, we're up in Boston. I know we've had a ton. Nikki, you're in Ohio. You guys have had a ton, and we're possibly getting another one, which just seems awful. What do you do if there's a snowstorm? Like, what do you do? Or what if nobody shows up? I mean, we're talking about all this prep work, and I mean, it's happened to people. What do you do?
Well, if I'm going to be holding the meeting in the school, obviously the school's shut down, and that's advertised to everybody in the community so they know the meeting is canceled. And then I try to reschedule it as soon as I can within a week if possible. If nobody shows up at the meeting, I know somehow I've gotten a bad date, or I haven't advertised enough or sparked enough interest. And so I would go back to the school the next day and talk to some of the students and try to find out, was it a bad date? Was it just lack of interest? Or, what do I need to go from here? And then go back to some of these advertising tips that we've talked about and maybe re-advertise and set a new date.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's obviously a few different factors that could be playing in this. So you need to maybe do a little investigative work and find out what's going on. So someone else asked, what if you're not allowed to host your meeting at school? So you're running a trip that's not school approved. And I think you've done that, haven't you, Nikki?
Yes. When I first started doing this, the school preferred not to sponsor us, i.e. because we were during the summer. So it was just not a school-sponsored trip. And so therefore I held it at the local library, and I sent out emails through my own personal email and did not use any school time or resources, and was very careful not to do that.
All right. So another question is, what about holding a second meeting? Is that a good idea?
I think it can be valuable. Again, sometimes a meeting might be attended by a number of people, but sometimes another date's going to get more people. So a second meeting is often a very good idea because I really believe the people who come to the meeting get so excited about the trip, and you can be contagious and show them your passion, and they want to go on the trip. If they aren't at the meeting, it's hard to convey that passion. Okay, I want to ask you, because I know you're getting set to retire, and you just
held a meeting for an adult tour, or you're getting ready to. I can't remember which it is. Can you talk to a little bit about how you are reaching out to adults and getting an adult tour going? Because I just had the thought that maybe not everybody online is recruiting a student group.
Well, ironically, the people who want to come on the adult tour are all my friends and all the parents of all the students that went with me for these 25 years on trips. And they have said to me countless times, could you sometime organize an adult trip? And so that's what I've done, and I sent out email invitations and had people over to my home, and I had all kinds of food and drink, and I had a PowerPoint. I put it on my TV and ran it through the TV of the places, showing all the beautiful places that we would visit on this trip, and people were so excited. I got 30 people here.
Wow, that's exciting. All right, so someone just asked about fundraising. Do you do any fundraising with your students, Nikki?
I don't do a lot of group fundraising. I did it at first, and I found that often I was doing the most work, or that it could get a little crazy with how the initial outlay of money. So what I encouraged, I investigated and found all kinds of ways that students could individually do fundraising. And I gave them all kinds of information on how to do this, and I supported this. Because what I found is, let's say you have a car wash. Okay, so then 3 people come, and you're there all day, and you're doing most of the work, and it sometimes just doesn't work. If you have a real good group, it can work, but I found what's best is that students are motivated to do a certain fundraising, then they should go with that. Or I give them all kinds of ideas of just ways to earn money, especially that they don't have to pay tax on, like mowing lawns, babysitting, doing a pet sitting service.
Yeah, those are all great ideas. Actually, that's a great question. And our next webinar is on peer funding, which ACIS is aligning itself with an organization called Project Travel. And next Thursday, we're holding another webinar, which everyone will get an invitation to in your follow-up email tomorrow. If you're interested in learning more about peer funding, it is an online individual fundraising for student travelers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the ACIS is also offering right now a fundraising contest. So if you go to our website, I think if you just go to students and fundraisers, right underneath that you can see the fundraising contest. And we are matching funds, actually, for the top earners of fundraisers this year, which is kind of cool. And it's, I think, the first time we've ever done this, and I think it's up to $2,500. So, and it can be an individual student or a group. So we are matching funds. You can learn more about it on acis.com, and we will probably talk about it maybe at the webinar next week as well. But you can ask your program consultant if you have any questions about it. So I think it's time to wrap things up, everybody. We have had a wonderful night, and Nikki, I thank you so much for your help and your insights and sharing all your successes with us tonight. I really appreciate having you here, and you know we love having you as an academic travel advisor out in the community helping teachers. So I just want to say that it's really clear to me that the most successful group leaders are the ones who really make these trips part of their career and think of it as this sort of travel program or travel club and part of their legacy at their school, so that when students are in middle school, they know that when they're a junior in high school, they can travel with their French teacher. And siblings go, and you end up getting generations of families on trips. And, having that mentality going into it, I think, is sort of the best of both worlds. Because for you, this isn't just a one-off trip you're going to do, that this is going to become part of your career as a teacher, as an educator. And it sort of becomes part of the fold of who you are and what you do. And I know that the people I work with, the teachers who have been doing this for so long, who are now, retiring or close to retiring, that's how they feel. They feel like this is just an extension of what they're doing in the classroom. And I love that sort of idea that the kids will know that the trip is coming and really want to be part of it. So I want to share with you a video of a teacher who has traveled with HIS for a while. She holds her meeting in school. This is how she announces the trip to the kids. She doesn't tell anyone where they're going, but all the kids are there and they want to go. So I'm going to share this quick little video. It's on our YouTube page if you want to see it again or use it for something, but it's really cute. So we're just going to play this for 1 sec.
That's great, Liz.
I get the chills. Isn't that adorable? I get the chills every time. The girl fanning herself in the corner, just, I think it's so adorable.
You know, Liz, in my room at school, I also have a huge bulletin board, and I have kids from going back 30 years, and a lot of them are pictures of trips. And kids will say to me, I want to get on that bulletin board. You know, they want their picture up going on that trip, and they want that to be, like you said, a part of their lives.
Yeah, students want to be part of something bigger than themselves, and I think we all sort of do. And Nikki and I were talking at the beginning before we got online tonight, and we have so many people who wanted to be part of this webinar tonight, and I think it's because we all want to feel connected and that we're doing this together and that we're not alone. And you're not alone. We are here to support you, and this is just the first of a series of webinars we're going to be doing this year to support everyone. So if you have topics you really need more support from us or more information on, or you'd like to hear a webinar on, please let us know. Also, if you have something you do that you think other teachers could benefit from, share that with us. You could be the next webinar. Well, maybe not the next one, because the next one is the Project Travel one, but you could be the one after that. But we are lining up a whole series of these to support you. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll see you next Thursday. If you're interested in peer funding and learning more about that, you will get emails from us, and everyone actually can earn professional development credits from this. And we actually